have to say Thunderbolts was not a movie that I was expecting to enjoy as much as I did. But that's not to say that it didn't have its problems, because it did. I mean, it's a Marvel film, especially post-Endgame. But overall, the film truly does deliver. It's a solid outing that gives Marvel fans something to chew on and really gives us something to enjoy as we prepare for what's to come in Fantastic Four and Doomsday. Now, Thunderbolts is directed by Jake Schreier, who is pretty much an unknown director. He's done a bunch of music videos. He did some television shows, one of which I thought was a great show called Beef. Also did an episode of Skeleton Crew, which is a highly underrated Star Wars show that just came out earlier this year, I believe it was. So go check that out. But he's not really known for big projects like this, or especially action movies. So going into this, don't expect this to be something from a big major director, but that's not a bad thing either. Not at all, actually. Film stars Florence Pugh, Lewis Pullman, Wyatt Russell, David Harbour, Sebastian Stan, Hannah Jo Kamen, Julia Louis-Dreyfus, and a whole bunch of other people. Now, the film revolves around a group of unconventional anti-heroes of sorts who are used in nefarious ways by Valentina Allegra de Fontaine, who's played by Dreyfus, to get what she wants or needs accomplished around the world without notice. Now, upon an investigation by Congress, she decides to bury all her secrets and attempts to destroy the evidence, including those who she has hired to do her dirty work. Unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, in doing this, they uncover a new friend and foe who helps each of them become better people. So what worked for this movie? Honestly, I'd have to say the pacing was superb. Perfection. Just perfection. It moved. There was action sequences, there was exposition, and everything kind of moved in a way that you never felt bored. Everything kind of just flowed in a way that was just perfect, honestly. The acting, specifically that of Florence Pugh, was solid. She has solidified herself as one of the most intriguing stars of the MCU at this point. Bad accent and all. But that's besides the point. David Harbour brings comedy gold to this. His comedy isn't that off-putting. It's not at moments that kind of take you out of the movie. It's perfectly done in moments where you're like, okay, hey, this works for what we're going to be seeing at this point in time. And then he's able to even transition from comedy to seriousness at the drop of a hat, and it really, really, really works for this film. So I give them a lot of credit for that. And then probably the second or third, I guess, breakout would be Sebastian Stan as Bucky. He proves yet again why he should be the leader of the franchise right now. I'm not saying he should be Captain America. I'm not saying that he should be, something special or anything, but he absolutely, when he's on screen, he steals the scenes. He has this presence, like he's been there, like he is the veteran that is there. And he really is. I mean, he's been in the MCU since basically the beginning, and he kind of puts that on screen when he's there. And it really highlights that, yeah, he really should be leading this team. He should be leading the Avengers, or the new Avengers, in some sort of way. Now, Wyatt Russell, I also really liked. Wyatt Russell, who plays U.S. Agent, has really become an interesting character. I would love to see him interact with Steve Rogers at some point, which we know that's probably not going to happen, but I think the two of them going face to face in some way would be really, really interesting and probably intense if that ever happened, but I doubt it's ever going to happen. Then there's Bob. Bob is another one that I really loved in this movie, played by Lewis Pullman, who becomes the Sentry, the Void. He does a fantastic job. Let's not forget, though, that this role was originally made for Steven Yeun, known from the show Walking Dead. He was also in that show that I just mentioned, Beef, but Lewis Pullman, I should say, is fantastic in this role. The way that he's able to really bring this character, give him depth, and make you feel all of this dread that he has felt, and just loneliness and depression and the mental issues that he has, because that's what this movie is about. this movie really is about depression, loneliness, and mental health and things like that. And we'll get into that in a moment. But it was really, really good how they handled Bob. From the time he's introduced to the end, I think they did a decent, if not really good job with him. So what didn't work? Well, look, this is a Marvel film, so no Marvel film anymore is perfect. Actually, no Marvel film has ever been perfect, but this one, especially after Endgame, post-Endgame, I should say, none of them have been perfect. This one falls into that trend. I think the biggest one that I see here is Julia Louis-Dreyfus. She is severely miscast. Look, I love her as an actor. She is phenomenal. Come on, from Seinfeld to Veep to anything in between, she has been phenomenal in everything she does. But this role just isn't for her. She's supposed to play this very vindictive villain. And there's moments in this movie where it's like, okay, I see it starting to come out. And there's this one moment where you're like, oh, is it finally going to snap? And then it doesn't. And you're like, ah. And most of this movie, she seemed to be playing her character from Veep. And that was a little off-putting for me. And don't get me wrong, I love her in Veep. I loved her character in Veep. That's one of my favorite shows of hers. But it just doesn't work here. And I love her as an actor. I just don't think this role fits for her. I don't. It's a little disappointing. I hope that maybe she can kind of get better at it. And again, it's not her. Maybe it's the writing. Maybe it's just the way they wanted her to play the role. I don't know, but I don't think it works for this universe. The set pieces seemed a bit small. They were a little constrictive. I feel like there weren't a lot of set pieces. You can tell the budget was a bit smaller for this movie. I get that it was a lot of punching. It was a lot of hand-to-hand combat. So you didn't want these overly huge set pieces because you're not going to get a lot of action. Plus, it's very small. But there was a fight scene in particular early on where it was like in the hallways and there was smoke and it was very small and tight and you couldn't even see the action because of what they were doing with it. And maybe that was just the lack of experience from the director, or maybe it was just the fact that, hey, they didn't have a huge budget to really showcase the action in that way. I'm not really sure, but I would have liked to have seen something a little bit better in the action sequences, maybe something a little bit larger, especially when they do fight the Sentry the first time, and really the only time, to kind of highlight his powers. It was very small, very quick. It wasn't great. It wasn't something that, it was kind of like, man, let's see this a little bit more. I know these guys aren't superpowered beings. Like, the Sentry is OP. I mean, we talked about this before. He is an OP character. But, it's just difficult. Like, it's difficult to do. I get that. But that's really it. I mean, besides that, there weren't a lot of things that didn't work for me in this movie. I mean, this movie had some great themes and there was deeper meaning to it. Like I said, there was an understanding within this film of depression and loneliness and finding oneself, specifically looking at mental health and trying to find and fill that void within yourself. And I thought that was a really great message and a great way of attacking that kind of thing in this movie. And I really, really enjoyed that. And I thought they did a good job with that. And Yelena was the standout with this, the Florence Pugh, because she was kind of the draw from the very beginning to the very end. Bob and her relationship really, really was the draw with this film, specifically with the mental health side. Bucky didn't have much there. Ghost, she didn't have much there. There was a little bit with U.S. Agent, with Wyatt Russell's character. But again, there was, bits and pieces. Everybody had a decent amount within this film. Not a lot for some had less than others. But again, it was really, really good understanding that, hey, all of these characters are kind of outcasts in some way, dealing with some shit, and they all had to find a way to deal with it and come back and like, hey, this is how we deal with it. And I really, really enjoyed that. And I think that they all came at the end back and now as a team and working together, and I really, really enjoyed that kind of way of handling it. And I think that's why this movie is handled so well and is doing so well. And I hope that it carries on word of mouth and does bigger. The opening weekend, wasn't huge. It's under $80 million domestically. I was really hoping that it could hit that $100 million domestically in the opening weekend, but maybe word of mouth will help carry this, and it'll have some legs carrying it in through the rest of May, maybe into June, to really make this movie stand on its own, because I think this is a really big win for Marvel. I do think it is, specifically when it comes to story and execution. Box office, though. We need to get this box office up, guys. I think this is a good movie. I think this is probably a big win for Marvel. I would say this is the best movie that they've made in quite some time. Look, my favorite movie post-Endgame is probably Shang-Chi, I think. Is that what it is? Let me see. Let me look at my notes here. Because, yeah, I'd have to say Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi is my favorite movie since Endgame, and I'd have to say this is kind of in the middle of the pack for me, but this is really, really good. Like, this is a really good movie that I think everybody should go out and check out. But let me know your thoughts. Did you see Thunderbolts? Did you like it? What did you like? What didn't you like? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. With all that said, I'll catch you all later.